Mate, thank you so much. We're here with Brandon from Smith & Co. Coatings. Appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man.
Yeah.
We're going to get straight into it.
Yeah.
Where the fuck do you start with DIY painting or first-time home renovators? Where do you start?
Well, look, I mean, you can start in many ways, but my tendency is you start in your common areas, kitchen, lounge room, hallways, and then you tendency work into like the bedrooms, that sort of stuff. So whenever I go out and see a client and they want to do a repaint of, say, a house that's need to be repainted for the past 10 years, we definitely start in the common areas, and that's where we really work out what colors we want to find throughout the space, just because you got those areas where you have natural light come through, that sort of stuff. So that's definitely where I tend to see start. Usually people might have different aspects of like where to start, but just from my experience and the results we've had and the feedback we've had, that system just kind of works for us. Yeah.
If I was going to paint my place myself, what would be my first step?
Definitely see what the morning sunlight comes up, because tendency like people usually come into the mornings and they kind of either have a very natural light point come through, which can really open up the space if you go such a cool color, or if you're sort of a neutral or warm color, then you can kind of work out what sort of direction you want to go. Best thing is obviously work out 3 colors. That's the best example. And then that will where you have a cool color, a warm color, and a neutral color. And then that's where you can kind of work it out from there.
How would people go about getting samples and putting them on the walls to see how that color is going to reflect in their light?
Yeah. So usually in the consultation, the painting contractor who you select or anything like that they should be offering that service straight away. So generally you have a fan book which has a selection of colors, but they're not exactly identified. If you went to go put the fan book up at the wall, you won't really get that sort of look of how it's going to look like, because it's just off of the fan book. So you definitely want to go out to the paint store and get your samples from there. They're obviously based on the selections that you and the client have made, and then you put it in certain areas. So like if you got a wall that's on an entry doorway, you want to put it on there. You want to put somewhere in the hallway, kitchen, living room, and then if you're doing the bedrooms at the time, you do the bedroom. So you really want to capture that sort of feel of how it's going to turn out. Definitely up against all your doors and trims, because that will then identify, if you got a 2-tone, which you'll have like a contrasted look, or if you just want to be white, go Lexington throughout the whole place. So that's where we'll really identify the look of it.
Let's talk about cool and warm tones. Cool's first. Yeah. What's your 3 best cool tone colors to create great coverage?
Yeah, so definitely Lexington Quarter is the most popular one. Then you can sort of narrow it down to Casper, White Quarter, and then one of them that we actually I was a real big fan of was Mountain Sparring Quarter. Yeah. That particular color, we did it on a residential new build, and it just, it was in between that cool and warm, but it just, it made it feel like the place was nice and bright, even when the lights weren't on. Lexington Quarter is a great color, really stands out the features of the timbers. If you have a nice low sheen finished wall, it really shows how the light bounces off on it. So those are my recommended colors if you're going cool. And then, so those are my recommendations.
You mentioned low sheen. What other kind of finishes are there?
Well, depending on your, like say if you've got young kids and stuff like that, you definitely want to be going a low sheen finish. Helps with durability. There is a product called Wash and Wear that really helps with like cleaning sort of stuff. It's not to say that if you get like pens and stuff on the walls, stuff like that, it'll wash off easily, but it might help with over time. You can also go a matte finish, which is on walls, but it's not my preferred, especially inside, because it tendency doesn't have that, that wow factor when you look at the wall. It just really something that can hide some imperfections and stuff like that, especially if you're living in like an old estate or an old building that's built in like say the 1990s or 2000s. Maybe a matte finish might help if like the plaster work is not top notch, or something like that to kind of hide away those imperfections. So those are some options, but definitely low sheen is your way to go for interior works. Yeah.
And if I was to paint the place myself, is low sheen or matte, is one harder than the other to apply yourself?
Application's the same, but the finish, matte, you could probably get away with, say, your roller streak marks. Low-sheen, you really want to make sure you're applying the paint evenly. So that means when you roll cutting in, you can get away with it because it's only just the border. But what I usually do is just to eliminate the brush marks. One thing I've actually established now is, as I've been going on doing my work, been getting my guys to go through with a mini roller after your brush marks. What that does is it really separates the roller texture to the brush texture. And for someone who wants to make sure our work is done precisely and appropriately, we definitely want to make sure that we get the roll as close as we can to the edges of the wall, and that will eliminate the brush marks. But low-sheen, you definitely want to make sure you got a good amount of paint on your roller, and you want to be able to apply the paint in a zigzag motion, top to bottom, work your way through, then come back from the start, and then you want to basically just lay it off from top to bottom and just do that repeatedly until you get that low-sheen finish, and then basically it has your good finish.
Talking about rollers, perfect time to throw this question in. Yeah. Is there a difference between a cheap and an expensive paintbrush and paint roller?
Definitely is. Not to throw them in the dumps, but you definitely don't want to be buying your brushes and rollers from Bunnings. Your $3 rollers or your brushes that have like a black bristles. That sort of stuff is just fence sort of work where you're not really going to see what it looks like. I'll definitely go to a proper paint provider like your Torbens, Dulux, Hames, or anyone who just sells paint products, and really make sure you ask the right questions in the sense of, hey, I'm painting inside my room. I want to know, what's the best brushes to use. You don't have to get top quality ones, but you definitely want to get something between like a 15 to 18 millimeter nap. And then you want to get a decent brush where, it has a good amount of cover, holds amount of paint and has a nice coverage on it. So when you're applying it, yeah.
What's a good kind of price range just for listeners to kind of go in, if they're going to go into any of those paint places you suggested, what kind of price range should they look in towards?
As in for the paint product?
Yeah, for the paint products and the brushes especially.
So brushes, look, brushes are set price across trade, retail, they're all the same. So you're going to be looking a roller, like you can get a nice Maverick one or an Oldfield one for about $20-$25. And that's the sort of roller like trade sort of use. Then your brushes can, vary between $15 to almost up $30. It just depends on the size of the brush, and everything like that. But your paint products, this is where it gets a bit expensive. People get shocked of how much paint actually is. As much as it seems to be an easy job, what's actually really cost effective for us is the materials. Especially if you want a high quality finished job, you want to use the top quality products. So you're ranging between a drum could go up to be for retail price about $180 to almost $220 a drum. Some places don't even include GST on that. So you want to make sure that if you are doing a job yourself, you want to be going that high sort of range products or your mid sort of range products. You definitely don't want to cheapskate your way out, because the minute you start cutting corners by using cheap products, the finish on it is just going to look crap. And then you're not going to be happy with it. Then you're going to eventually go out and get a trade contractor to come out and do the job. And then you're going to try and work his price down because you made a mistake by buying cheap products and doing it wrongly. So it's either do it right, buy the right products, buy the right applicators, apply it properly, and then you'll get a win from it. But yeah, that's my way to look at it.
Beautiful. I want to switch it up a bit and talk about preparation. Obviously, we know preparation's key.
Yep.
Where do people start with preparation? How important is it?
So let's start off with your doors and frames. So if we're doing a repaint, depending if you have animals or anything like that, I know a lot of time when I do repaints, you have dogs, they tend to see the chew on skirting boards or door frames, stuff like that. Definitely want to sand the surface. Before you even pick up a brush, sand the surface. And you want to be able to use at least an 80 grit, depending on how thick the paint is on the surface, 80 grit to 120. And you want to be able to get the sheen level off the previous paint. So that's where your main start is. Before you pick up any brush, sand every surface properly. Then you want to go through and apply your filler. So on your doors and trims, you would use a wood filler or a gloss filler, depending on the finish. And then your walls and ceilings, you want to be using plaster filler. So that's your two steps. Once that's done, go through, you resand your patches, you prime your patches, then go through and gap anything that needs to be gapped. So skirting boards, maybe cracks in the ceilings, anything that forms that you need to use a gap filler, that's when you go use a gap filler. You don't really need to prime that, but it can probably just help that little bit of incentive of adhesive, sort of when you put in your paint. Then once all those 3 steps are finished, so you got sanding, patch and prime, and then you gap filling, and then you can basically start putting the top coat after that. Yeah.
You mentioned prime. Is that a separate coat of paint as well?
It is, yeah. So any builds now, repaint, new builds, whatever, you always use a three coat system. So your preparation paint is definitely the most important step of applying the paint, because if you don't apply the prep paint before you put your lotion paint, it will just it won't hold up. If you got a bare gyprock wall, and if you go apply a lotion on it straight away, the finish on it will just be all over the place because you got parts sucking in. It won't bond because eventually the paint will flake and you'll be able to scrape it off over time. And it'll just be a messy job. So you definitely want to be getting your primers. There's tons of primers out there. Taubmans and Dulux definitely have the suitable primers for gyprock and other surfaces, but definitely want to be making sure you get your coverage right on your primer coat before you even start doing your top coats. So yeah.
I want to take it back again. We touched on cool tones.
Yeah.
I want to go to warm tones now.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 3 colors that you like to recommend for cool tones. What about warm tones?
Off the top of my head, I know there's like antique white. That is a good color. What else we got? We've got natural white is a neutral. So something along the antique white, but again, like those sort of colors, they're very old. And I think in the direction how the housing is getting built now and redesigned, those warm colors aren't as popular. If you've got sort of an older place, again, going back to the 2000s and maybe 1990s when they're built, those sort of colors can be suitable for those sort of houses just because, they're in that sort of building stage. But I tend to not go that way when I'm doing consultation with clients about finding colors. I try and get them to stay with the cool colors and the neutral colors, just because I've just had such a good result from them myself, where I know it will capture what they actually want at the end of the day. So yeah.
Well, we know everyone's not going to paint their house white.
Yeah.
It's not a set in stone thing. What about if you want to paint your house a dark color? Is there a different process that needs to be carried out for darker colors?
Yeah, so definitely if you want to be going dark paint, so let's say exterior wise, you've got a lot of sun that comes in through your exterior. So tendency with any dark based colors attracts a lot of heat. And if your house is, black, it will attract a lot of heat, maybe internally as well, depending. It could be all right with insulation, everything like that. But you want to make sure your prep coat is done properly and precisely. So that's, again, using your primer. Tendency when you're doing dark colors, you get it tinted into a gray. Just helps with coverage when you're using your first of one. So you're using your first of top coat, and then when you're using your third coat, your final top coat, it looks perfect. It's evenly spread. Your primer's done properly. Your first top coat's done properly. Your third coat's perfect. But again, anything to do with dark base, please use like a dark primer color, like a gray. Just helps with coverage. And it realistically, it's actually cheaper to be doing that than using a white based primer on a black. That's eventually going to be a black wall, because you'll probably end up putting 3 or 4 top coats just so it covers well. So you don't want that see-throughness to come through, but yeah.
What do you see the biggest mistake DIY painters or first-time home renovators are making?
I think the biggest mistake is what I see is like going back to just your prep. Again, painting looks easy, but it's not. It's really not. If you don't narrow it down with your prep at like 80%, it's 80% of our work almost, And when I see people go in, they go, "Oh yeah, we can just paint that." I'm like, "All right, let's understand. Like that's fine. I'm not, take that away from you, but I just want you to know like what actually you've got to do in order to get the finish you want." Because some places you go into and they're like what, $2-3 million homes, and if they just done a quick lounge room renovation and there's a couple of bare gyprock walls, but it's looking out in the water and you've got sunlight coming in, you've got western sun, northern sun, whatever direction the house is, and it's a very like wall that you need to make sure you nail. They'll just jump in a roller, they'll grab any roller, start rolling it. They won't even cut it in first. They'll just roll, and then without looking at how they're applying it, they've got roller thick edges and brush marks and all that sort of thing. So It's just, you really want to make sure you kind of do some sort of homework on it first. Look at YouTube, Instagram, look at other people's pages that can help you, really get the idea of how to apply it properly. Again, you just got to have the right steps to be able to execute the job properly. And yeah, that's my biggest, that's the mistakes I've seen people make, is just they kind of tendency of rush into it straight away, not realizing, the first steps that you're making are actually going to make it so much worse at the end.
So just to kind of recap on that, you mentioned the roller marks and how crucial it is, especially if the lighting hits that. Definitely. If we could walk listeners through like a step-by-step process for them to paint one wall, how would that lay out?
Right. So let's just go back from let's just do it straight if we were going to go do it, right? So we lay down our drop sheets, lay down our paper, anything like that, cover anything that's around it. Then we go through, give the wall a dust down because it's got plaster. So after it's been sanded, you tend to have some plaster dust still on it. Get a broom, brush it all down, get a blow gun and just, quickly blow it off quickly. Then depending on if you're working with a team of two, one person cut in quickly, the other person can follow through. But you want to start off with your cutting stuff first. Again, with your first coat, when you're cutting and rolling your first coat, the brush will really show the brush marks on the first coat because the gyprock is just so bare. It's got nothing onto it. So you really got to put some good paint on it. But again, eliminating those brush marks will really help your wall stand out more, especially, if you're going to be looking at the wall. You don't always look at the wall like this. You'll find people will look at a wall very close. Even though it's not in the rules, people always do it. So you want to make sure that no matter what, you do the job properly so that you get that person who looks at the wall closely, they don't see anything. So you definitely want to follow through with the roller afterwards, just a little mini roller. Apply the primer coat. Make sure, again, you've got a nice amount of paint on the roller. Roll it out, zigzag motion, follow through behind. But really capture the moment of when the roller hits the surface. Watch it go all the way down and make sure you eliminate any thick roller marks, and you will always get it at the ends of the rollers. Never in the middle, because that's where the paint will come off the easiest. So just double check that. Tendency, you always tilt the roller a little bit and it will just tilt it so the edge of the roller is just rolling down, and then that will eliminate the paint that's on the edges of the roller. And then again, repeat the same process, double check it. If you do find you did capture a roller mark, just sand it out quickly. It's easier to do that in the first step or first coat than trying to do it at the second or third coat, because then it just makes the process harder. So yeah.
I'm going to switch it up a little bit. You've been in business now for a while. You're doing some amazing projects. I love keeping up to date with your Instagram. What's been your biggest learning as a painter over the last couple of years?
Well, look, I started from a family business. So my old man had a painting business for about 20, 30 years. Started since I was 15, straight out of school, just went straight into the workforce. So I just loved working ever since I was young. So I really captured the full experience of how a painter gets treated on job sites. And not to say anyone else gets treated any better, but with our sort of line of work, we tend to have the shit end of the stick all the time, cleaning up other people's stuff. We finish a wall, gets damaged, all this sort of stuff. So what I've really done is, now that I've got my own company and my own team, my own jobs and everything like that, I've really just taken all the experienced moments that I captured when I was younger and implemented better systems, better schedules, communicated with the builders, clients, let them know how we actually do our work. Being told how to do your job, no one wants to hear that. I don't want to tell someone, hey, you guys need to hurry up when you get done. We set a schedule with the builder, with other trades, and let them know we will come in once the plaster work is obviously all done, cabinetry maybe fit off, bathroom tiled, everything like that, and possibly if the flooring needs to go down. Then what we'll do, we'll mask up everything, right? And then what that does is it allows us to have that week block out of us going in and executing our work. We go from our prep stages to first coat to almost third coat, possibly finish ceilings, depending on the job. But those are sort of things I have just learned from over the last couple of years, and it's really, really worked for us well. Every one of my team members all know the process. They all actually enjoy the work a lot more because they're using the correct resources, spray guns, sanding machines, all those sort of things which make your job easier is what's making my life easier. It's what's making the builder's life easier. Or the client's life easier. It's not to say still learning certain things, but you try and capture every bit of mistake you get over the time of, being in this building industry, and you just implement it, you work on it, and you just, keep moving forward. Like, you know what they say, like if you're not making mistakes, you're not growing. So that's how I take it. And whatever I get told from my clients or builders, I relate back to my guys. They say, guys, this is what they've noticed. Let's fix this up. Let's find a different approach. How can we do this to not have that same issue that we've just had then? And it's really important that you do update your guys like that. You don't just look at them as like a dollar figure saying, you're working for me, you're making money. That's not right. You treat people with dignity and respect, and that's what I do. And it's worked well. And that's why, in such a short amount of time, I've been able to do what I've been able to do. So
I heard you mention spray guns, and obviously the difference between spray guns and rollers. If I was trying to paint this myself, am I going to shoot myself in the foot trying to use a spray gun in comparison to a roller?
Yeah, look, roller, you can just give someone a roller and you see how they go with it. A spray gun is a little bit more technical. It's far more easier. Probably I've seen someone on the page like 17 times faster than a brush or a roller. So in terms of, how quick you want the job done, yeah, you use a spray gun, but they do cost, upwards of $1,000 minimum. But that's, again, if you just buy like a normal one. But spray guns, they're the best. They're our money makers for us. And we use spray guns throughout our jobs entirely, especially even finishes like on walls and not necessarily interior walls, but ceilings, spray finish ceilings, back roll them. Any cladding boards, axle cladding boards, anything like that, we tend to see spray finish. It just leaves such a better finish. But again, if you're going to spray, you've got to make sure your prep's on point, because the minute you take shortcuts in your prep, and what I mean by prep is, like you're sanding, patching, and like that, if you don't double check those things before you start putting your final coats, the spray finish will show up all those imperfections. So I'm a big fan of spraying doors and trims. Love it. That's all I get my guys to do, spray doors and frames. I'm not a fan of brush and roll. And I just think that's such the traditional way of picking up a brush and roll and just, getting a roll and brushing it out or rolling it out. And it just doesn't get that excitement of saying, wow, look how good that looks, And especially if you want to impress your client, you want to impress them with your work, not just by what work what you can tell them you can do. You want to show them. So that's where the spray guns they're such a great tool, and they're the best resources you can get in the painting industry. But the thing is, some people get scared of the amount of money, how much they have to pay for it up front. But if you work it out, it might cost you, for a decent spray gun, maybe $2,500, but over 3 jobs, you make it in the first job, you make it back straight away. But then you got that, facility of having that resource of a spray gun.
So to sum it up, especially for DIY or someone doing it themselves, you'd recommend that a roller and a brush is definitely the best way to go.
Yeah, look, it just depends. Like if you've got the capabilities of learning how to use a spray gun, you can get, I think there's a Graco Magna one, which is just a small DIY one. Great for doing timber fences. Great tool. It's nice, doesn't have a lot of pressure. You can control it easily. Just make sure obviously your surroundings and stuff are all plasticed up and everything like that. But if you were going to do a repaint and you've got owner occupied stuff, or there's furniture and stuff, spray guns aren't good for someone who's doing DIY. So you want to stick to a roll and stuff like that. But if you've got exterior stuff, you've got a fence or, I don't know, Besser block wall or something, great for a spray gun. It's just something good to have around the house. That if you're doing a lot of maintenance throughout the years, it's definitely something to invest in.
Sweet. I'm going to switch it up.
Yep.
Last question.
Sure.
If there was a billboard and you could put anything on it, what would you write on there yourself? Everyone's going to see that billboard.
So you mean like just in the
whether it's a life motto, it's just something that's going to get out there.
I just believe, what you give is what you attract. You treat people well, you get treated well. What goes around comes around. That's all I can say. It's what I've learned throughout my teenage years and up until this point now. You attract good things, you get giving good things. So treat people with respect, dignity, and all that sort of stuff. And that's all I can say about that. Yeah.
Love that. Mate, I know you're a busy man. I appreciate you coming on and having a conversation. Where can the listeners find you? Where's your social tags?
So our Instagram is smithco.coatings, and then our Facebook is Smith & Co Coatings.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to link out to that.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that will be in the description.
Yep.
And again, thank you for your time, mate.
All
it's
good.
been unreal.
Enjoyed
Always
it.
appreciate it.
Thank you.